Oi, oi. Right, what are we doing then? Well, according to the video title, we're making a animatronic rod puppet. So, what am I talking about? A rod puppet, something that wouldn't look out of place in Jim Henson's Creature Workshop. You know, if you've ever seen The Labyrinth or The Dark Crystal, we're talking something that's puppeted by one or two people, or even more than that. Typically with rods controlling portions of the body, the hands doing the mouth actions, and there might be some mechanics that do the eyes, ears, things like that, little servo controlled bits. Um, I'm creating this because I've always wanted to. Ever since I saw those movies as a kid, it's just been a lifelong fascination. And like many of you who are doomed to walk the earth with a 9 to 5 job, 40 plus hours a week, you find that you don't really get a lot of time to do the things that you find fulfilling. So that's why we're calling these Freedom Friday. Freedom Friday, start of my weekend, and I can actually get back to doing something worthwhile that doesn't stumple aspects of my creative thinking throughout the week. So what I'm going to attempt to do anyway is give a step-by-step, let's keep that loose, step-by-step explanation, shall we say, of how I'm going to put this together. It's not really a guide or a tutorial. The reason being is that when I made Gary back here many years ago, this was my first attempt at ever doing an animatronic. The reason I learnt 3D software, I hadn't done any computer-aided design, no machining, never soldered, never cut a piece of metal. So it was a steep learning curve, but I wanted to understand the basics of these mechanisms because, like I said, I find them so mesmerizing. It's the one thing that keeps me awake all night in absolute awe and fascination. Wish my pay job could do that, but it doesn't. So I don't have a lot of money at the end of it. I have to pay for a mortgage and a house. And so after you've watered yourself and fed yourself, you're left with very little cash. So I've always had to do things on the cheap, and this project that we're going to do now is definitely going to be as cheap as possible. I'm going to use as many off-the-shelf parts as I can, just purely because I've got so many. I've got little linkages and bits of rods and some servos, and we're just going to try and do this a bit more organically than focusing solely on computer-aided design to rely for. I also had a couple of these U-joints, which I thought were quite a good idea, and some of these acrobatics, active robots, something like that, acrobatic robots, active robots. They sell these little parts and pieces that you can kind of bolt together. So, imagine if the head was mounted on here and I had some control mechanism, I could get some kind of cool movement with this, some kind of, if this was the head and this was the neck, get some cool rotations and stuff. So I've cheated and skipped forward a little bit just because I need to design a eye mechanism. I want some animatronic radio controlled eyes, much like Gary's, but this time I want to do things slightly differently. The last animatronic I made relied on it's called an E-bar mechanism to pivot the eyes up and down, left and right. Typically what you'll find in industry standards at the minute is what are called gimbals, and they're very, very, very precisely machined pieces of aluminium, metal, that go inside an eyeball mechanism. So this is one I've printed and I've knocked up. I'll just direct you over here to the screen. So this is one that I've already created in Fusion 360. Again, I wanted to start with the eyes because I know I want animatronic eyes. And one of the hardest things to do is to make a pair that work well, that are small enough. So what I really, really was up for doing was creating what's called the gimbal mechanism. Turn the eyeballs off. So here's my gimbal. It's like a little swash plate, and in here we have one piece of, well, typically these would be metal, these little machine parts, but with 3D printing, because I don't have a CNC machine and I can't afford a CNC machine. So we're going to stick with this. Some little parts. I've got a clevis here, which is a little push rod that you use for RC parts, and I've designed this insert that will go into the eye. And the basic idea is I've got two servos either side back here, both pushing forward. The top bar here should push this part and rotate it around the center. And likewise, this servo here should pull this thing back, and this part here can swivel as well. So what we end up getting, I don't know how well we can see this. Let's just see if we can zoom in here. We get a little up and down going there, and obviously side to side as well. Like I said, it was a very, very tiny print. I've actually got some of the pieces here that went into it. So this is the a little insert, goes into the back of the eye. This is the centerpiece where it can rotate left and right. And this is that ridiculously small up and down piece here. So like I said, it's absolutely tiny. And I used a PLAX, which is a much stronger material. And it's being pushed by these little, I can't remember what size these were, these pieces of piano wire. So they're very thin, but they're very strong as well. And essentially that's all that goes into this gimbal mechanism. I really wanted to be able to try and achieve this because, like I said, if I could do this machined at precision metal, it would work much better. But at the minute, I'm not necessarily finding any issues with it. I've got a good range of movement, backwards and forwards, without any interference from anything. So, like I said, this wanted to be the first step, and everything would come off of this. So everything would come off of the eyes. This would be the maximum size that I have, maximum size of my mechanism, and that gives me a rough idea of a kind of head size that I'm going for. And I don't even really have a character in mind yet. I've done a few sketches here and there, but we're going to do this in a bit of a roundabout way. Typically, if this was for a film or production, you maybe had somebody who designed the character, so a 2D image or even a 3D image. You take that concept, it would either be sculpted as a full size or maquette, and from that sculpt, the engineer would take those measurements and make a set of mechanisms that fit inside that skull, which is very, very good if you know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. So we're making this up and learning as we go along. So I knew I wanted to start with the eyes. If these worked, we're a step closer to getting where we need to be. And I've got a bit of a checklist of things that I would like. I'd like this to be as small as possible. Like I said, I've got a head size here. It's pretty small. It's a bit smaller than my eyes. Yeah. I would like a 2-axis jaw. So a jaw like humans, omnivores and things that have molars, they side to side, back and forward, and they rotate and open and close, obviously. So if I could just get 2 axes, I'd be happy with that. Maybe a side to side and an open and close. We'll see how we go. I want it to have eyebrows. I want to be able to raise and lower the eyebrows. I would love it if I could maneuver the lips to kind of make a hoot and put a servo behind here to maybe lift that top lip up. You'd be amazed the amount of hours I've spent staring in front of the mirror just gurning like a good Friday night. I would also like an entire body. So I'd like a creature that, well, a creature, or something that resembles a fantasy creature. It's a bit of a cheat, you know. If you were going to be really, 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 really clever, you'd do something like a baby chimpanzee or a squirrel or something, you know, something completely true to life that mimics that movement, that organic movement perfectly. But this is my second attempt. I'm going to make things a little bit easier and a bit more fun, to have some freedom. A fantasy character could be anything then. It could be, you know, some crazy rabbit, some frog type thing, you know, something from the animal kingdom with different aspects, but definitely anthropomorphic, something that definitely blinks with human eyes, has teeth and can make a lot of expression, and maybe even something that wouldn't be out of place if he was talking in a show, or like I said, something like the Dark Crystal, that Age of Resistance came out. There's some great creatures in that. So we're gonna go for something along those lines. I want a whole body, which means I want arms and legs. I think I want at least one hand to be able to move, at least 3 fingers or something like that. So it's got a bit of motion. But really, we'll get into that more when it comes to the design stage. We'll find out some of the limitations, what we can do and what we can achieve. So early days to begin with, just get a little mechanism going. I did have, here we go. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not great. It's just a couple of sketches, but this is the kind of thing that I'm thinking of here. Just trying to hold it up a wee bit to the screen so you can see there. You know, I've been looking at a lot of pug skulls, the dog pug. I like the kind of the skull, essentially, like the cranium area is kind of bulbous and kind of squished and squat. So something like that, maybe, you know, at least as a basis to work from. I quite like the idea of frogs as well, just because they have got that, you know, gurney, crazy, fantasy looking kind of face. I got a feeling that the character will develop more over the next few coming weeks once I start to get a few more designs. I still intend to use Fusion 360 to do some of the design work. Essentially, some of these off-the-shelf components, I typically model them, put them into the software, and just see if I've got enough clearance. So early stages, everything could change. I just wanted to make this kind of kick-off video about what we can do going forward, and if there's any questions that you have along the way, you can ask them then. So we'll try and go through all stages, like making things like eyeballs, which were from Gary's. I think this was the first one I ever painted, so it's a little, it's a little basic. We could do some more work there. I've had these bits accumulating for a few years now, with the mind to do this. So we'll just make a start and see how it goes. So come along if you're interested in this subject and interested in finding out what goes into doing this, because there's not a great deal of people you can ask, which is fine, because a few years ago I was looking for these answers, and how I learned was by maybe on YouTube somebody in the industry has made an animatronic head. If there was a scene or a section where it was moving, I'd pause it and gaze at the mechanism till I could try and visualize in my mind what the hell was going on there. So it's a really long way of doing it. I wish I had somebody I could just knock on the door, send an email and ask the question, but that just isn't the case. The only person that has ever helped me at all and gave me the time is a guy called Gary Willett. He's on YouTube under Willett Effects. He's a very, very, very talented man. Knows a lot about animatronics and 3D printing them. And he was a wonderful resource. So thank you, Gary. And everybody else, I recommend you go to Willett Effects and check out his work. It's totally awesome. And every Friday, well, I'll probably record them on Fridays and get them up at some time over the weekend, just to show what I'm doing. I got so many emails, which is very kind of everybody, about my animatronic that I made last time, looking to buy it. It's not really, one, I can't sell it. Two, it's not really optimized for further use. It was a way to understand mechanisms and electronics. It's not the best it could be. So I'd rather work with people, share my ideas. If you know better ways of doing things, you can always drop them in the comments. We're not going to open up a big dialogue and comments. I don't do the YouTube stuff. This isn't for likes and subscribers. Basically, if you're a prop master or a director or somebody with ties to that industry, this is why I'm doing this. All the projects I do are self-assigned. Like I said, I'm making these things to prove that I have a firm interest. This is all I think about, and like some kind of lunatic, I don't really have much of a social life. All my free time gets funneled into working on a new project, and learning something that I've never done before, with the mind that hopefully one day I can maybe earn a living by doing things that make me slightly happier than the average 9-to-5 grind of a whatever kind of job. So this is kind of like a video portfolio, shall we say, something that exemplifies my way of thinking, why I'm doing this, and if we can make it work in the end. So as I said, if you're working in a prop department or know some people, if you're looking for an enthusiastic guy, I am your man. I'm definitely obsessed with making an idea come into real life. I think that's what it is. So I hope you enjoy what we're doing here. Come along for the rides. It's going to be a hell of a ride, because we don't really know what we're doing yet, but we have the determination. So stay tuned. Thanks for coming along for Freedom Fridays, and we'll catch up together in a bit. All right.